Коллеги, спасибо большое. Предлагаю всем, кто уходит, уходить, всем, кто заходит, заходить. У нас замечательные здесь гости, но мы должны говорить на английском. Mike, I hope you wouldn't be offended when I call you Mikhail in Russian. Is it right? Excellent. Good stuff. Gents, let's maybe then start with a short round of introductions of each of you and us, and telling what you do, what you invest in, and in what stages you are doing that.
I'm Mike. This venture capital firm from Europe. We have about 100 million under management. We just today actually announced that we're coming to Russia.
Whoa! Let's raise the hands. I mean, that's one of the few occasions recently, and very valuable, therefore.
It's a big step for us, and also a small step. But we are here, and we are here to stay. We are building up a small team in Moscow. Then I see
On the first row.
And we just announced SI Digital.vc, and we are now looking for 10 startups, early stage, digital, and preferably deep-tech startups in Russia. So my past, I have been on the founder side, like last event, and then I switched to what we call the dark side, no, not Roma.
Yeah, he's even dressed differently than.
Definitely.
I saw that.
Yeah. We can tell that your announcement is well read already, because on the way to the stage there were at least 5 to 10 people stopping you and already pitching probably.
He's the guy with the money, so go after him.
No. I'm the guy who knows how to start.
That's very important, yeah, especially when you have the money.
Smarter than money.
Yes, Andrei, please.
Not about the money. Actually, okay. A few words about myself. I'm established. I was a co-founder of HI Capital. It's one of the largest mezzanine funds in Russia. And then I established another fund called FMF Capital, also a mezzanine fund, which later on I sold to DaVinci Group. I'm one of the partners in DaVinci Group, and a year ago we established a venture capital fund in Israel, which invests in Israel and Europe, 75% and 25% we invest here. We're investing in B2B core technologies at expansion stages. We are a company already have above $1 million of revenues and already proven clients. But what we bring to the table, this is regarding MIM, the dark side. We are not a VC fund. We are basically we're calling ourselves an entrepreneur money, because most of my investors, we have two values. We have smart money investors, guys like founders of EasyBob, Wix, etc. Guys who already build the unicorns. And from the other side, we have integrators who helps to promote our companies and integrate them into our clients. We have over, I think, if you take all our integrators all together, we have more than 15,000 clients. And from DaVinci, we recently bought in DaVinci. This is our private equity firm. We recently bought one of the co-partners in the Softline, which has, I don't know, maybe 35 countries all over the world, 200,000 clients, and so we're basically very smart money. We're trying to bring, therefore we're looking for core technologies where have no analogs in the market. So that's it.
Excellent, thank you. Roman?
Hello, my name is Roman, and on this panel today, I guess I'm representing Silicon Valley and also the very initial stage of company formation. Because what I do is I help young entrepreneurs find good ways to get money, to find investment. But I also help VCs. I work with quite a few VCs in the Valley to basically find interesting projects and especially interesting teams. Because sort of the stage that I'm working at, the biggest question is, how good is the team? Because most of the time you don't really have a product, you don't really have customers. You may have an idea, you may have some prototype, you may have maybe a bit of code that you've developed. The question is really how good is the team? So I'm playing a bit of a matchmaker. But also sometimes, this matchmaking actually gets me into the game myself. So the company that I'm representing today, this was the company where I actually was so excited about what the company is doing that I actually had to join it as a co-founder. So the company is called Zidida. We're doing a secure platform for the devices that are now called Edge of the Internet of Things. So if this is something that you're interested in, talk to me after the presentation. And also if you're interested in business models around open source, find me, talk to me about that, because that's sort of my specialty in what I do in the Valley.
Excellent, thank you. And lastly, myself, our fund is called Target Global, and we are cross-Europe investor with the headquarters in Berlin, but also, the big office and heritage here, investing out of 3 funds that together have about 500 million US under management. Again, most of the investments are in Central Europe. In Russia, we're investors in Xi'an, in Foodfox, in TimePad, must be a few other things like Black Moon, recently done an ICO, and looking at different stages, but especially at the early one. Notably, we have launched the FinTech Fund for Russia recently, together with Kiwi founders, that is, specifically early stage focused one. So maybe, coming into the topic of our conversation, we've been asked to discuss about different investment stages. And, as a small real-life example, I was talking to one of the founders from Denmark just yesterday, and he was saying, I need, about 500K, maybe 800K bridge before I go to the IPO. And I was like, really? He says, yeah, absolutely. That's how we think right now in Copenhagen. And that, I guess, may be true or maybe not, if he can pull this out, but that tells that, the stage is getting, increasingly mixed and mixed up. And I think it would be amazing if we can just define a little bit what you think is, an early stage and what is the late one. Maybe who wants to go first, Roman?
Yeah, yes, since I'm the guy stuck with sort of early stage companies, we can go from there and sort of build our way up. So I think to me, the early stage is really, really early stage. And this is basically a bunch of guys with an idea, trying to get off the ground, right? And a lot of times, these people would be seasoned entrepreneurs, who actually can self-fund. But when they come to me, I typically try to give them an advice that, self-funding is fine, but a lot of times you're actually better off finding a partner, and we call it angel investment in the Valley. I think, the term is pretty universal, where you're getting money not so much to actually get the money, you can survive without that, but you're getting money to get somebody else's skin in the game. Because what you really want at that stage is basically smart money that would open some of the doors for you that otherwise would remain closed. And with that idea in mind, in the Valley, it's actually interesting because it is totally a buyer's market, right? And I think if you guys forget everything about, today's panel, just remember this, right? When you're shopping for money, you're shopping for a product. And just like shopping for your car, you shop around when you're shopping for money. Money is just a product. It's nothing else. In the Valley, it's pretty easy to get it, but the question then becomes, who do you want on your team? Because people, angels who are giving you money, they actually become sort of part of your team at that point.
Actually, I totally agree with what you just said, and therefore we established the concept of basically a smart money, money which comes with integrators. Because I think clients and revenue is more valuable than investment, because the way I see it, there are 3 stages. I just spoke with the guys before. If the company is good, okay, if it's not a distressed company which is looking and ready to take any money, then it's other story. But if it's a good product, and there is a major demand in the market, and there is a lot of POCs already in the company, because usually a company can get POC. It's not a huge problem to get a POC. If you cannot get a POC, so you're in trouble, yeah. So therefore, if you have many POCs, you have a great product, you have a huge demand for your product, so you probably have very good, it's a good company. And for a good company, there need to be 3 stages. I call it the founder stage, the strategic investor stage, and the institutional investment stage. And the founder stage is usually basically where you need to take somebody who can give the smartest money they can get. And smartest money at this stage is somebody who can teach you and manage and to tell you what to do and how to do. It's basically somebody who already done it. It's like an ICO. Everybody's looking for the teams who already made the ICO, okay, like Black Moon, okay? So the same goes here. If somebody who already made this path, find him and and ask him to be one of your investors, and even give him the best price that you can give. Then there is a strategic. It's somebody an investor, somebody like us, okay, or Accenture Capital, or some smart bank, or some platform who can give you many clients. And the third stage is basically the classical capital, institutional VC big stage. So when I'm saying I love to sell to be chosen. Okay, I'm not the choice. It's like in the show The Voice. Okay, that after everybody has turned a turn, I want him to choose me. So this is the company that I'm personally looking.
So basically, Startup Valley, series is true. The more people are around there, and I'm not sure about the founder behavior. It's right if he should be, behaving badly to you. But you are kind of one of those guys who would be more motivated.
Yeah, look, when I see, for example, just investing in a company, they have 7 bids from the biggest venture capital from Israel, but they chose 3 integrators. It's a fintech company who's doing KYC or instant KYC. And they had 7 offers. They chose 3 integrators, one from French, one from Russia, one from US. That's it.
Excellent. And I guess, Michael, turning to you, probably some of the guys here thinking, all right, the selling is in the Silicon Valley, there is, some other things happening rather than here in Israel. It's also not quite the same, even though Andrei is investing, in Russia as well. When you are right now saying we announced, 25 million dedicated, pool of capital, and we are ready to go early. What does this early means? Should guys have any revenue already, any clients, any product? Let's try to be specific.
Yeah, so we really like early, and early to us means we need to, see the usual stuff, which is sort of a rockstar team. But in our case, it's okay if the rockstar team, for example, is a tech team. There's no, for example, business. There's no marketing guy with them yet. It would be great if there is, but we're prepared to look at these teams and really look at sort of the core concept, at the technology. Is it the contribution to where we are currently? Where does it fit in the ecosystem? Is it, for example, does it have potential to be an infrastructure play of how whatever blockchain develops in future, or AI develops into the future? So we have this thesis, actually, how the world will look like, and then we look at this piece of technology and sort of the team around it and say this has potential or not. But basically, we go in really early and then work with these founders and bring them up to a level where they are actually at the seed stage level. However, I would say one thing. We have been all talking about, or most of us talking about, the Series A crunch. 2 years ago? Yeah, about 2 years ago. Which actually hit the US much harder than it did Europe. And interestingly, I think Russia actually has the opposite problem. It has the opposite of a Series A crunch. There's there's enough money here to go into late stage investment, but there's no money here to go in seed stage. That's why we think there's a market for us here right now. But on a global level, you shouldn't be naive about this, because what it actually means to get the Series A round, you have to prove significant traction, you have to have revenues, you have to have something. And to get from, a tech team up to Series A ready, that is a very, very long stretch. It's going to be a hard journey. And actually what you just said about that journey, being smart about it, is all that counts. You need to make sure you have the right talent, the right know-how, and you know, prepare yourself to go through this over a couple of actually investment rounds. So if you start, you know, with a high valuation, that is actually totally counterproductive.
Clearly, and let's try to build on this point maybe just in a second, because I have to say what you are saying right now is very much, you know, a European view of, you know, getting early, team and product is just enough. But, you know, what we would find here at the market that many, you know, even professional VCs would say, okay, but I mean, I want, you know, early revenue. If it is a B2C company specifically, some of the less, you know, smart investors would say, what do you mean you don't have profit at this stage? And I think that's something, you know, people in this room, you know, hear very often. So maybe we can elaborate a little bit on the, I mean, let's not call it pitfalls of the market, but some, you know, more specific advice that we can give to the early stage companies in Russia, how to get their head around this difficult fundraising process.
Yeah, so what we see a lot if we invest in these early teams is it's gonna, we do an investment, whatever, the valuation might be whatever, 2 million, let's say, and we invest whatever, 200K. But honestly, and we don't tell this to anyone, but the publicity.
in this closed group, yeah, we can share.
This closed room, yeah, is we are prepared and we know pretty much, you know, probably they will need another bridge round, maybe even 2 bridge rounds. Bridge rounds are the new sort of thing now, yeah. And in order that you're able to do bridge rounds, which aren't just, you know, okay, actually, guys, you're fucked now, you need more money, which means we give you sort of less of a valuation, it makes much more sense to actually increase the valuation just a bit, and then go into Series A. But in order, so, you know, we as a VC and other VCs are able to do that, you need to start at the lower level. So, and I know it sounds stupid, especially hearing that from a VC, and I remember when I was on the other side of the table as a founder, and the VC said to me, oh, you know, don't go for a too high valuation. I was like, what the fuck, of course I go for a high valuation. That's what I'm here for. But actually it's not productive in seed stage, you know. Go for a low valuation for the first couple of rounds. For the first rounds, try to be smart about get the right people and then go for the big valuation when you have real traction. So in Russia specifically, we saw a couple of deals where they got private angels on board at an early stage. They invested $1 million, the company had a 4 million valuation. A year later, I would valuate them at 2 million, maybe 1.5 million. So what do you do then?
And down round is always painful, yeah, completely agree. Guys, what's your perspective on this?
Actually, I just tackled into the company, amazing company, and I wanted to invest into this company, and when I looked at the cap table, I saw that they gave the pre-seed or seed stage, one of the angels 50% out of the company. So this is also a huge problem, which means that the next investor cannot invest into this company. It's already like it's a blocking thing. It's a deal breaker. So we need now to buy out and to settle down, to buy out this first angel who entered the money. Because for him it's also very bad, because nobody will invest into this company later on, because we don't want to dilute the founder. And so one of the advices which I can give, raise small portions of money, only what you need. Don't extra money in the company. It's a bad thing. It's, first of all, it's make you waste money. It's you're giving percentage just for nothing with no its meanness, and you're destroying your next rounds, because it's therefore once again the advice: take somebody to take you all the way who knows the path. Don't invent the bicycle. So many people done it already. Find those people.
No, that's exactly right. And I just wanted to quickly add, Michael was saying it's, getting maybe a little bit ridiculous with some of the valuations, here in Russia. Let me tell you, like in the Valley, it's getting absolutely freaking ridiculous. seeds at 5 mil are now common. Like, what the hell? I mean, seeds are not supposed to be that big, and yet they are. So, and when your seed is 5 mil, I mean, you could imagine what the sort of the later stages would be, right? So, in that sense, I guess best advice I can give you all, if you haven't seen HBO's Silicon Valley show, go watch it. It's funny because it's true. Coming from like the guy who actually spends my days in Silicon Valley, it's a freaking documentary. That's what it is. It's funny because it's so true. With that, I actually wanted to kind of address, a flip side of the problem too. It's interesting dynamics because what I see a lot of times is I see funds who would like to join at a later stage because they feel that it's safer for them, and especially funds coming from let's say Russia or any other geo outside of Silicon Valley. And then there's this interesting dynamics kicks in, right? If you're not there to actually play the early round, you're not invited for the later round. So they kind of end up in this really tricky situation where they would love to join, but they're now not being invited to. So if you, again, on the flip side, if you're not one of the entrepreneurs, but actually one of the fund managers, actually try to figure out a thesis about early investment. Because again, the interesting ones will be slipping away unless you actually start playing the game early.
Thank you. That's extremely helpful, and I guess one of the outcomes, or one of the conclusions we can make is that there is a lot of a difference between taking one investor from the other one, and really the change in the valuation of 20, 30, and even 50% is maybe not enough to compensate for the bad investor, and could be not enough premium for the good one. And at the end of the day, I mean, any funding round is just it's part of the journey. It's not the end point, right? The end point is where you exit the company, and everything that happens in between is probably less relevant. I guess on the late stage side of things, we a little bit alluded to that and started ditching a bit, I would say, some of the people who are doing only this. But maybe for the benefit of the founders in the room, when, in your view, is the late stage starting, and how would you go to strategize if you are one of those companies who feels like you are approaching this stage? Would you wait for longer before raising a lot of money? Would you start earlier? How would you think about it? Please go ahead.
I'll try to take a stab at it. So to me, when you get from seed to A, this is basically where you have to prove traction with the customers, right? When you're starting to raise A, you basically have to have at least a few customers, and essentially you need to prove that your business model is working out, reasonably well, right? When you're getting to B, this is when you're actually trying to scale the business model. When you're trying to prove that what you actually did at A is still working out, and you can get from 2 customers to, let's say, 20 customers, and then the rest is basically the sky is the limit. I mean, you can go in multiple different ways of sort of strategy of the company, and I think you guys are actually much more familiar with those sort of later stages.
I think, for me, basically, I think late stage, it's, I'm dividing my 3 categories, but basically when the company have a waiting list of clients and they just need money to make the orders work, that's it, and to tech support. For me, this is the late stage. So from here, and when the mechanism already working, like on the flow, so this is for me the late stage. Where you don't need to put all the machine. There is a clear strategy. There is a client list, and it's also even the company $a few million US. So for me, it's late stage enough to put money inside and bring more clients and to work on the mechanism.
Sure, provided they have figured out, the revenue model and everything else. I wonder, you defined this strategic, investor round quite early in the game, even before the financials come in, that I would say would not be, very customary, and especially a lot of people, I think, would be worried, to bring some of the banks who may rather want to acquire their company rather than build it, right? So, you are...
It's not a strategic investors. Bank, it's a one client.
Okay.
Strategic investor is Accenture, who can bring you 10,000 clients, okay? It's an integrator, digital, there are digital integrators today, okay? There are classical integrators like Softline, and there are digital integrators. It's a new type of integrators, clients who build back-end, front-end developers for banks, for e-commerce, for retailers, because most of these companies do this on outsource. They do not do this in-house. They develop all the application, the web, and everything outsourced. And then, so this is the new digital integrators which I'm speaking about. They can bring a lot of clients. And
Clearly, I think they can make tremendous value. How do you make sure that your startups are not afraid of this, people, together with yourself even, taking advantage of the situation and acquire the company prematurely?
a strategic round, it's something it's been like, before investing, you're putting a business plan to a startup. You're selling your money by putting a business plan of what you're going to do and how many clients you're going to bring them. So this is what we're doing basically. I'm putting a plan, we're putting a budget to this plan, we're putting everything. So we're working with the startup already before investing into the startup. So this is strategic. Not some bank came, put the money and doing nothing. So yeah, we is the one client.
And just to quickly add to it, I think the view that's very common in Silicon Valley is that at BNC, you're basically buying sales channel. So that's typically what a strategic investment would be, right? If you have let's say somebody like Dell EMC investing in you, you're essentially buying a sales channel for that money. That's the sort of the way to look at it.
It's important to work on the program because if Dell invested into you, and now you need to fight with Dell to ask him, come on, you invested in, come bring me clients, but he's so, Dell is a huge company. They're not focusing on one startup. They have many startups. So in order to see that he's really serious, he has skin in the game already, and he's doing what he said. So I think the best way is to ask them to put a business plan on the table. What are you going to do for us?
Excellent. In the limited time we have left, maybe we can have some questions from the room. If anyone wants to ask, can just raise the hand. Okay, so we have someone in the back. The question is, we can give him the mic, or maybe you can just come further here and we give it to you, huh? All right.
Да, только я не особо говорю по-английски, я говорю по-русски. Вопрос такой. На самом деле здесь аудитория в основном это стартапы, ну если в массе взять, то из той серии, что есть команда, есть продукт, есть какие-то продажи. Вот просто по шагам. Шаг первый, шаг второй, шаг третий. Как с вами взаимодействовать в итоге? Вот даже после сегодняшней встречи. Ну потому что послушать вас это хорошо, это все замечательно, визитку передать, а дальше что делать? Польза-то какая, чтобы была?
Отличный вопрос, Майк. I would translate for your benefit is basically what are the next steps? After we all had these nice conversations, for the guys to approach yourself and get the ball rolling.
What the next steps are? If a startup approaches us, well, internally. We would look at it, we evaluate it, we say we want to talk to you guys or we don't want to talk to you guys. That's basically the next steps that we usually take. And then, if we have the first meeting, if we see it's an interesting pitch, we see it's interesting people, personalities, and we go into further due diligence. We want to see more of the technology, we get some external experts involved as well, and so on.
With Mike, it's relatively simple, just send him the pitch deck. But I guess maybe we can answer a bit broader, like with investors in general, right? How you would go about it if, as the gentleman said, you have, the team, the product, and some early sales.
So let me maybe be a bit of a contrarian, on this panel. I don't need your pitch deck. I don't need your business plan, because I don't care about any of those. I care about you actually getting to know me and me getting to know you. And I care about you giving me a demo right on my laptop, because I'm actually I'm a former software engineer, right? And if my time to hello world in your solution, whatever it is that you're doing, is less than 10 minutes, then I'm interested.
Perfect. Andrei?
I think the answer is simple. We are people with, at the end of the day, if something is interesting, so we are we're giving you an answer back. Just come and meet us, and that's it. I don't know. For me, it's a weird question. The processes are quite standard, so they're like a formal and non-formal way to meet, and that's it. And if the concept is right, and we like the company, so let's move forward.
I remember when I actually got my first investor for Last FM, at the time Joe Ito, and some people might know him. And at that time in iTunes, you could see who else was in the network. And I saw there was a guy in the building who's called Joe Ito, and he shares his playlist. I went, are you Joe Ito? Yes, you are. Okay, we need to talk. I'm from Last FM. Oh, I heard about Last FM. So I would totally agree, actually. I mean, you get a lot of deal flow through the normal channel. You get the pitch deck, and then pitch deck is like 2 slides. You either get it or you don't, kind of, or you are intrigued to watch the other 20 slides. But of course, the most valuable approach is through the network and directly.
Now it's a good chance.
Yeah, so let's stop talking and go, talk to each other, huh? Guys, thank you very much, everyone, for being here and for sharing all the insights. Let's
Thank you so much.
join the hands to that.